All right, and it seems like we are live. Happy Friday evening. It's a little bit after 6 o'clock here in Southern California. Welcoming you all. This is Doc and Lenka, and today is the my gosh, I'm ahead. 28th of April, 2023. So we are just hopping on to do this quick video. Hopefully it will be pretty straightforward and to the point, because we are outraged today. Oh my gosh, we've witnessed another hearing in so-called family court, and we want to share our experience with all of you viewers out there and truth seekers and all the wonderful, brave Americans who are sick and tired of being 14th Amendment U.S. citizens, residents, taxpayers, defendants, tenants on their own land. What else are they? Residents, taxpayers, citizens, CPRs, debt entities, all kinds of offices that people hold.
Defendant, suspect, anything other than man or woman is an office that they created and they control.
Even your name, even your name is
No.
Do you really have your knowledge that you are that name that
No, your name is your name. That's
it's a property.
Gift.
It's a
That's
gift.
property.
Right.
But when they take it and they securitize it and they make it in all capital letters and turn it into a corporation, a corporation or a person, okay, and then they use that to steal your sweat equity.
Yep.
Well, then that's a system of constructive fraud, where they have unjust enrichment through bad faith and unclean hands. But we won't go into that right now.
We won't be going into that. So we are just waiting for people to tune in, giving it a little moment here on this lovely Friday evening. We just thought that we would share the experience. It's very interesting. Today was actually all about family law, about these fathers.
No family law.
Well, about the family, so-called alleged court. Okay, yes.
There is no family court.
Yes, we will be going into that. But that was what was our day today about dealing with these poor dads, actually, who are being extorted into alleged child support and who are being extorted, who are being denied their right to their biological property. It's outrageous. So anyway, let's get into it. So what did we witness today, Doug? Why don't you share your experience and then I can hop in. Well, first of all,
I can say it in 4 words. A pile of shit.
Yeah, it was. So today was
Excuse
a hearing.
my language, but that's exactly what it was.
Today we were witnesses of
today,
hearing.
Today we had a friend, right, that we're helping, and he's in what they call family court, which doesn't exist, and so they're doing this, a lot of it over the Zoom, all right, and so I agreed to be his next friend and his choice of assistance of counsel at this hearing. And what it was they're trying to tell him that he has to turn over his weapons or whatever weapons he has. Well, first he wanted to know if they were going to violate his right to me being his next friend and choice of assistance of counsel. Well, the judge said something about I had to be a bar
judge.
Well, I had to be a bar attorney and I had to file something ahead of time. That's not true. Okay. Let me ask you something. When they created the Constitution, right, and let's say the Bill of Rights in 1791, there was no such thing as a bar association. Okay. So what the hell did they do for assistance of counsel? What did they do for prosecutor or attorneys and lawyers? Okay. Lawyer is short for law sayer, and that came from Kurt Pendergrass. And a lot of the stuff, let me run it down to you this quick. A guy named Chris Hallett took on both the Bar Association and the domestic violence and the family courts. Okay. Along with a good guy named Kurt Pendergrass. He's still on, I think, YouTube and Rumble.
Yeah,
you can look him up.
He does law classes.
He does law classes, and he puts it out there. Okay. Well, him and Chris Hallett teamed up, and they went after these family courts, and they dealt with the fact that, hey, they're using this domestic violence, right? Okay. Well, domestic violence is defined in Article 4, Section 4. Okay, and that's violence against the Constitution and the people. All right, that's insurrection. That's domestic violence, violating, issuing these bills of pains and penalties. Everything that they're doing to us.
Right, is actually the definition of domestic
violence. And if you look up what a domestic terrorist is, you'll find they fit that category quite well.
Perfectly. All the public pretenders.
Okay, so they've got these family courts. Okay, well, what happened was back in, I think it was the 20s and 30s, they had these euthanasia courts. And that was if, your people had, say somebody was retarded or somebody had some kind of a defect with them. Well, they would basically castrate them so they couldn't have kids and pass it on. And that's what these euthanasia courts were. And, there was a little bit more that went to it. But anyway, when all that was found to be, really unconstitutional and against people's rights, they had to do something with the euthanasia courts, so they turned them into family courts. There's no legal creation of a family court. Okay? At best, they're Article 1 courts created by the legislature. Yeah, I mean, if that's, what you want to believe. But what it is they've figured out ways, crafty ways, to steal our sweat equity, because that's all we have. Okay, our time and our labor is the only currency we have. Whatever we trade it for is up to us. That's contract law right there. Okay, but what they've done is they've come in and they've impaired the obligation of all contracts by stealing the gold and silver. So there is no substance behind what we call money. It's all debt. So you can't pay anything with a debt. You can't buy anything with a debt. All right. So how are you going to pay child support? Okay, tell me. There is no money. There is no money of exchange. How are you going to pay it? What specie are you going to pay it? All right. At best, what you can do is accept it for value and tell them to go get it out of your Siesta KV trust, because those who have the gold pay for everything. Mm-hmm. And they took the gold on the agreement that they would pay for everything. Now they're trying to renege. They went into voluntary bankruptcy, and they're supposed to settle all of our debts and give us our remedy. When they don't do that, we can take them into involuntary bankruptcy. But what I witnessed today was a travesty. I mean, it's tyranny at its best. Okay? They had some lame cross-dresser in a black robe. Okay? And, I mean, they were going through there, and, I mean...
Like a slaughterhouse.
No, it was like these people were, it was like a slaughterhouse. These people were lined up to get sheared like sheep. Okay? This one lady got all kinds of trouble because she went out and had a drink. She got a contempt of court.
Because she had a drink.
Because she had a drink, and then had to go to all kinds of substance abuse shit. Since when have we let anybody tell us when we can drink? The only time that I know I can't drink anymore is when I'm falling towards the ground because I can't stand up. But nobody's going to tell me I can't drink anymore.
Okay, so, before we get into the details, okay, like what we witnessed today is, as Doug mentioned, this so-called judge, okay, who is not really a judge, was sitting there, and they had few people in the courtroom, and all these other people they had on a Zoom call, okay? And this dude, who basically is the God, okay? That's how they put themselves on the pedestal, right? Was literally acting like God, okay? Who was now directing all these adults, these people, but literally, if you know what's going on with the system, he was the ruler, all right? He was the ruler sitting on the throne.
Yeah.
And you had all these moms and dads
that had to bow down before
literally
him.
bowing to him. And he was basically putting out orders. And like Doug mentioned, this one mom, went out. She had a babysitter. Okay, this was a child custody battle. And she had a babysitter that she hired who was perfectly fine, staying at the house with the offspring. And she went out and she had a drink.
Yep.
She didn't get into trouble. There was no crime committed. There was no
yeah,
injured
there was a
party.
crime committed. She told on herself.
Well, hold on a second, okay? For crime to exist, we need to have an injured party that files a complaint that was injured.
She was an injured party. She told on herself. She injured herself.
So she went out to a bar, who is designated for... That's the real bar. Since we are talking about all these bar attorneys, okay? That's the only bar that exists. A bar where you go and have a drink. So this mom hired a babysitter. Her offspring was perfectly fine, perfectly safe in her safe home. And she had the audacity.
No, she went with a friend.
Oh, she went, okay.
Who drove.
Who traveled.
So she didn't even travel.
She didn't even travel.
Under the influence.
Under the influence or anything like that. She had the audacity
to go out to have a drink.
To go out with her friend who carefully took her to a bar. That's the only bar that exists in America where we go and have drinks. Not that produces these so-called attorneys that attorney you into the system of constructive fraud. So she had the audacity. People, imagine she had the audacity to go and have a drink and then safely return back home to release the babysitter and be back home in time, perfectly fine. She wasn't drunk. She didn't cause any trouble to the society. There was no injured party. But she had the audacity to go out and have little relaxing time with a drink at a bar.
Yeah, I'd have made my own wine and drank it at home.
And now she's being prosecuted by this so-called judge, okay, for having a drink at a bar.
Wait. Look, she's being prosecuted by her ex-husband, not by a judge. Her ex-husband brought this before a judge. Okay. See, people, look, the family court, they tweak your emotions, right? And they deal with the greed. Oh, I get half. Oh, I get, giddy up, right? When, okay, if you love each other, right? And okay, it's not working out. Well, you guys know what you've done together and what you haven't done together. You know what's right and what's wrong. The both of you know that in your heart. If you're going to deal with your heart, since you supposedly love this man or woman, right? Then you're going to make it amicable, because especially if there's kids involved, it needs to be amicable. They need both the father and the mother together, working as a team, no matter if you're still away or whatever, until they turn the majority age. They need that guidance, and they need the balance of both parents. What they've done with this system is they've started child trafficking. It started with the marriage license. Okay, since when have you had to go get a license to get married? Okay, you went and stood before a representative of God, and you made a contract with the one that you love before God. It's between the two of you and God. It was witnessed by somebody else, which makes it real in the third dimension. Okay, that's a marriage. All this going and getting a license, what really happens is she marries the state. He marries the state, right? But you don't marry each other, okay? So the intercourse between the two corporations, you and her, produce what? Another genetic assembly just like you guys, right? So what happens? You go into the hospital where it's a foundling hospital, okay? They take in abandoned children, okay? That's
Abandoned properties, yeah.
no,
Cargo that's being delivered.
abandoned children, okay? And so they changed the definition to born alive. So it means anything that comes out and is attached to something that's breathing, you know. So when they cut the afterbirth, they consider that a second birth. Well, what'd you do with the afterbirth? Well, you left it at the hospital. That's a founding. There's a second birth. There's the all capital letter name death. That's a death certificate. Okay? So, I mean, they play all kinds of games. I'm not going to go into this, but...
Yeah, because that's for a long discussion.
Yeah,
but this is how...
Well, they bring this into their jurisdiction, which is the water, the law merchant through the birth certificate. And then the pair they rent to raise their child, right? Pair rents, okay? They rent you to raise their child because they consider it their child, not yours. That's why they can have CPS come get it and go give it to somebody else, okay?
That it's more suitable.
That's more suitable to the way they want their child raised.
According to their rules.
And they become the pair that they rent, or pair rents at that time. And see, they do all of this stuff, and I know it's kind of kicking you in the head right now. Because, oh, really? Well, look.
But this is how they can then get you into this so-called family court to play this theater on you.
Okay, and in a court, any type of court, I don't care if it's administrative, family, you know, whatever, any kind of court, okay, you have to have what's called due process. You have to have notice of whatever it is that you're there for, and you have to have a chance to respond, and you have to have a chance to have them answer your questions so that you can get evidence, okay? It's called discovery. You have a right to that, okay? So today what I witnessed was a bunch of sheep coming through these stalls, sitting out there in the waiting room to be sheared. Okay? They were scared. They were confused. And they were pitted against each other. They used to love each other, but now they're at each other's throats. That's the way this system in family court is designed, you know. Giddy
and
up.
this is why they want you to hire one of theirs attorneys, because it's a closed system. They all work together. Even this attorney, you know, she or he, they will promise you the world. They will be the nicest, caring, you know, being that they really want the best, but you don't know what's going on behind the scene, okay?
No, the deal's already made. If you're going to family court, what they do is they look at your history, they look at what you earn, they look at who's the major breadwinner. I mean, they look at all of that, okay? And the lawyers get together and figure out how much they can milk you for. So, you know, we got to file these motions, or we got to do this, and then we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and it takes it on down the road. And each motion is so much, and you got to have a retainer. And look, people, they're just milking you.
And they will drag it for years.
Yeah, they're milking you like a cow.
So because this case is vested, maybe you want to explain that why they drag it out.
Well, the whole system, okay, is based on bonds. All right, you are chattel. Okay, they consider you as like a goat or a cow or whatever. You're there to milk and to sustain them. All right, you're a vessel in commerce to which they profit from because you're their vessel, is according to them. All right, so everything that you do in life, your vital statistics, right? Everything that you earn, every diploma, every promotion, I mean, it's all marked in your vital statistics in your file, and that raises your value. Okay, if you don't do that, it lowers your value. Okay. And they've been doing this in secret for years. They're about to come out the closet and do it for real. In this communism and what is it? Social credit score
system. Yep.
You know, and that's for real, people. And it's just like with these family courts. Look in the Constitution and show me where any of these family courts were created. They're not a lawful court. But as long as you go along with them, and as long as you call these attorneys and file stuff against somebody that you used to love, well, check this out. You're going to have this problem, and it's going to continue because you're feeding the machine. The other thing is, and know this, hear this, and let it plant a seed and go look it up. All right? Everybody that's been married, okay, according to their system, has been defrauded because you believed that you were marrying each other, okay, and in front of somebody that could represent God and document or memorialize that contract between you and your partner and God. They didn't tell you you were marrying the state and you weren't even marrying each other, and that everything that you had from that union or produced from that union, they had the priority interest in. Okay? Because as a corporation, you went to them and basically sold your soul through that document. All right? But under Throckmorton, I believe it's U.S. versus Throckmorton.
That's correct.
Okay? Fraud vitiates everything and everything it touches. So the fact that you weren't disclosed to this, you can vitiate that contract, that marriage from the state through fraud.
Which vitiates everything
It vitiates
else.
everything. It's over with. And then you work it out amicably if you want to dissipate and part with each other. Or you go and you get a family Bible and you go and stand before God and make a contract with each other that God witnesses and write it in the Bible to memorialize it. That's a common law marriage right there.
See, but there is so much confusion, and people are so scared that, they experience. So in this so-called marriage, right? Like it happens that people evolve at a different speed, at a different rate, at a different level, and it's okay to separate, right? But what the system does, it literally turns the mom against the dad and vice versa.
And the children.
And who suffers are the offsprings. Those are the little beings that don't deserve any of this, right? This is why they tell you, oh, you need to get attorney. And the moment you get these attorneys, right? So the mom gets attorney, the dad gets attorney, and now the war is on, okay? And it escalates, and it gets bigger and bigger. And before you know, it usually wipes out everything you worked for.
Well, that's why they profile you, and behind the scenes, right? These attorneys are talking shit about each other, and we have to file this, and we have to, but they're out having drinks together. Yeah,
and they're getting rich.
I think they're worth
rich.
another $5,000 next month. Right. What do you think?
Right. And they are getting rich, and you are getting poor, and your kids suffer. And we hear these horrible stories where literally it takes people through the cleaners. That at the end of their all hard work, they end up with nothing. They have to sell their houses. The kids go into apartments, or it just becomes complete disaster. And it doesn't have to be like this at all. Because, as Doug mentioned, U.S. versus Throckmorton, fraud vitiates everything and everything it touches. So if you know the very foundation of this fraud, that when they basically sold you the concept that you need to get in front of this state representative to get a license, that's when
you needed to go to McDonald's to get permission.
To get permission to marry the one you love, that's when the fraud started. And the moment you vitiate that, it vitiates everything. And so then the state has no say into how you divide your assets, where the kids go, and what time. This was tragedy what we watched today, when this so-called judge is sitting on his throne and is basically deciding between the mom, when the mom gets to see her own offsprings, and when the dad gets the visitation. It was outrageous.
And they also have a mute button.
Oh yeah.
So that if you're saying something that they don't like, they just mute you, and then they make some ruling, and don't even take you into consideration, which is that's the violation of our very foundation.
Of justice.
Of justice. I mean, you know, that
and what
we're going to go after this judge.
Oh yeah, the judge is done. All right,
the judge is done
because this is absolutely unacceptable. So our friend, you know, he needed to have a next friend and assistance of counsel. So he was denied. He was literally muted when he asked the so-called judge if he's going to deny him the right of his next friend and choice of assistance of counsel to assist him in his hearing today. All right, and he got muted.
They muted him twice.
They muted him twice, and we witnessed it. And so this is, you know, this is literally fascism at its best. This is these rulers getting on the thrones and basically deciding what the law really is and what the rules are. This is not America.
No, we've been usurped by the Bar Association, okay? And we're basically at war with the Bar Association. They've usurped everything. Nobody does anything without talking to an attorney. They've taken over our government. Most of Congress is our bar members. Okay,
which is unconstitutional. It's very foundation.
So, you know,
this is the English crown infiltrating our country.
Look,
that's how they've done it.
Look, people, we have to handle our own affairs. Okay. And we have to be honorable with it. Okay, if you've got a problem with somebody, go work it out. That's what you're supposed to do. If you can't work it out, go take 2 witnesses and try to work it out. Okay, and then if you can't work it out, then then you invoke one of our courts. Okay,
Article 3,
a justice of the peace court, and you have a trial by a jury of your peers, and then you deal with whatever that judgment becomes. Because it's your neighbors and your friends and the people of the community that know you and know whoever else it is or not. You know, they're the ones that are going to ask the questions and make the decisions. You're not going to have any attorneys in there doing this so-called fancy cross-examination. No. The trial by jury of your peers are going to start asking you questions and taking notes and asking for evidence. And then they're going to go deliberate on it, and they're going to come back with the just verdict. Yeah. One that's good for you, whoever else is involved, and your community. That's okay? Right. Because we all have flesh in the game. We all have skin in the game with these communities when we do it at a community level. What they've done is they've taken us into a world level to where they're talking about on the news what's happening over in China, and really I don't give a never mind. But it doesn't deal with me. I'm not swimming to China. I'm not even eating anything that's coming from China or buying anything that's coming from China. So I don't care what's happening in China. If they drop a nuclear weapon on us, I hope it hits me right on top of the head and I ain't got to worry about it. I don't care.
So going back to the topic, so just very important thing to really take out of this video today is that what they are pulling over people is fraud. All right, it's
constructive fraud.
It's constructive fraud. They are all on it. They are selling you. All these attorneys are selling you constructive fraud, which makes them.
They're foreign.
Fraud.
They're foreign agents.
They are foreign agents.
Unregistered foreign agents.
They have no business to deal with the living men and women. And then we hear all these horrific stories and how people get torn at these so-called alleged courts that are not courts. They are corporate tribunals. They are administering the U.S. bankruptcy. They cannot hear the living men and women, and this is why they have these mute buttons. This is why these poor moms and dads were literally extorted today, and it just got us so, oh my gosh, it's just
unfair.
It's unspeakable.
It's unfair because everybody has been programmed and indoctrinated into believing that this is the way that things are done.
Right.
Okay? And as long as we continue, insanity is definition of what? doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. We've been doing the same thing, or we've been allowing them to do the same thing over and over again, and the results are still the same. So are we going to be insane and keep, following this and participating in it? Because it's our participation in all of this stuff that's allowing them to continue it.
You see, a real judge is a referee, all right? He's not there to mute anyone. He's not there to decide visitations between the mom and the dad, how much the dad is going to pay the mom. That's not a judge, all right? That's not a judge. That's a banker, okay? That's a banker who is working in equity. And that's what you are dealing with, people. And until people really wake up and say no, and start exposing the fraud and start vitiating all these things for fraud, okay, and start holding all these people accountable and liable. Because let me tell you something very important, okay? All these people had to take an oath of office, all right? That's their fidelity bond, that they will serve with fidelity. And the moment they step outside of their limited scope of authority, now they are on a hook with everything they own in their personal capacity. And this is what these public servants don't realize, okay? That's what they are doing. And when they start realizing that people are learning that they have rights according to their own laws, all right, and they start realizing that these people can actually go after them, okay, hold them liable, and start taking everything they own, actually everything they stole through their system of constructive fraud that they created for themselves, for their so-called the legal system, okay, that we are not part of. This is why we can witness things like what we witnessed today in the so-called family court. That's when things will start changing. And these pretenders, these public pretenders will really change their tune, okay? That's when we start holding these so-called public servants accountable to everything they are doing and everything they are not doing.
All power is in the people, and we are the people, right?
That's right.
We outnumber them, and they rule, or what they think rule, by consent, or they govern by consent
of the governed.
Okay? Well, I don't consent to any of this. All right? But if I comply with it when I know it's wrong, what does that make me?
Yeah.
Okay? I mean, evil men profit when good men do nothing about it.
Right.
Okay? So, I mean, yeah. It's time to quit playing these games. I mean,
and start volunteering to go to play in their dirty box, in their dirty sandbox. Because once you enter that and you start playing with them, this is what happens. It's just like they take you through the mud. It's unreal what we've witnessed today and what we actually been witnessing for very, very long time. This is why people then go and say, well, I cannot believe what this judge just did and what this attorney is doing. And we see it all day long.
Yeah. It sucks, people, I wish I could just share my knowledge with all of you, just download it, right? But, these people are wrong. And until we stand up and come together and start dealing with these wrongs as a family unit, or a republic, we're never going to change anything. As long as we keep paying these fines, fees,
permissions,
permits,
licenses,
and keep playing in their system. Their system's going to prosper, and we're paying for our own destruction.
Our own demise, yeah.
It's time to step out of these comfortable prisons that we call homes or whatever it is, right? And shake off all the BS, okay? Because, what they're doing is it's a great big psyop, people. Everything that they've built is fiction. It doesn't lawfully or it doesn't physically exist.
Yep.
The APN number is an overlay. It exists in a drawer. That's all they sold you. Yeah, your home exists, but you're a tenant in their property.
Same thing like when you get a license to drive their car because you register it to the state.
Yeah, you gifted it.
So you gifted it to the state.
Pledged it.
And pledged it to the state, and they convince you have to become their driver, which is actually an employee of the state or the subdivision of the state. And they have you trapped in every possible way so they can control your behavior. And that's what this whole system of this voluntary servitude is designed to do.
It's the same with your children. They robbed you at birth. The mother signed them over to the state as an informant of the new persons and vessels that came on board.
Yep.
Okay. And then the father never came and claimed his property.
His biological property.
And they put in the newspaper. They put a notice in the newspaper.
Abandoned.
And so, therefore, it was abandoned, bro. You know, it's a game, and it's a psyop. And once everybody starts catching on to this, right? Well, there's nothing that forces you to deal with that or be a part of that.
Stacy is asking if did driver come from the Renaissance period, driving on the King's Road.
No, it came into commerce.
I think, yeah.
It came into where they wanted to separate on the roads here. They wanted to separate
but this is
the difference in commerce. But if you want to get to before
yeah.
Okay, well, the driver was a herder.
Mm-hmm.
It was a guy that had a big staff that chased the sheep or the cattle or whatever he was driving ahead of him. I mean, if you really want to come down to it.
But you know, in their own codes, it tells you it's 49 CFR 390.5 that driver is a person operating a commercial vehicle,
a motor vehicle,
vehicle in commerce. And then if you go into the person, it's Title 18 USC. And now I forget which one. I thought it was
Title 1 USC 8.
That's also, but then in the specific one, 18 USC 2595, yeah. Something like that. I will put it in the comments in the video to be correct. It's actually defining an employee of the state. All right. And then if you go into the specific state vehicle code, like in California, it also tells you that in the California vehicle code, the driver is an employee of the state or any subdivision of the state. So they are telling you right there. And it's really funny that even on the driver's license, if you flip it on a back, it tells you that I forget.
You're not qualified. It doesn't qualify you for employment.
Doesn't qualify for employment,
having a license
and
doesn't qualify you to employment.
We will do a specific video on it because this is fascinating. When you really start peeling the layers of the onion, right? They are telling you right there. This is why they are enticing all the young people. Oh, you need to get a driver's license. Driver's is a privilege, right? You need to get a marriage license, right? But anything you need a license for is basically tricking you into their system. Okay?
Well, you're going to a corporation. You're going to McDonald's and
getting a permission
and asking them to recognize something. So, okay, we're going to give you a license to do that.
We are going to give you a license
in our
to do
corporate jurisdiction.
But by doing that, now you need to adhere to their rules.
No,
and
private corporate policies.
The private corporate policies.
Yeah, it's just like going to work for McDonald's. You sign the rule book saying, hey, yeah, I'm going to abide by these rules.
That's what every employee has to do.
So whenever you get a driver's license, not only do you waive your Fourth Amendment rights, okay, and give them a right to search you at any time, right? But now you've taken yourself from a man or a woman and a traveler and placed yourself into a corporate jurisdiction by your own hand.
Right, right. So a lot of people complain about the system being tyrannical, system doing this and system doing that. They are not doing anything. You know, people are actually volunteering. They are literally lining up. It's this sheep lining up to go into the slaughterhouse. That's what's happening. And so people need to really wake up that, you know, they are not doing anything. You know, we are doing this to ourselves. So when we terminate all these adhesion contracts, right? When we terminate this marriage license for fraud, when we terminate this license to liberty, which we exchange for this becoming a driver license.
How many of you people couldn't wait to just get your driver's license? Oh man, hey, yeah, can I get my permit first, right? Yeah, can I give up my rights real quick here? You know, here, let me sign on the dotted line.
Yep. Yep,
I mean, that's how they've indoctrinated.
That's how they do it. That's how they do it, right? And all these people, they just cannot wait to get their kids into the system. Oh my gosh! I always tell people, you know, you do not need permission from this corporation, so your young offspring can go and exercise his or her right to liberty. This is the fundamental.
Well, they might as well, since
freedom.
the mother gave them up as an informant at birth, and the father never claimed them. I mean, they're not really their kids.
It's horrific, right? But as we start, you know, people start learning and they start, you know, revoking and terminating all these contracts that we sign up for. Now you start realizing, oh my gosh, all this freedom that we have, and especially the so-called family court, it's devastating. It's really devastating because it destroys families, it destroys kids. It's designed to create wars between
because
two
you suffer
people.
the kids, right? And then they can take the kids from the family and child traffic them.
Okay, so anyone, okay, this is a very important, thank you for reminding me. This is a very important message. Anyone who wants to really fight the child trafficking and all this abuse what's going on, this is the root cause. We need to go to the root cause where this is all starting, okay? In these family courts, in the CPS. Because if we don't stop it let me just finish. If we don't stop it at the root cause, right, we are not addressing the root cause. We are only addressing the symptom. And we will constantly continue to have all these children being fed into the system, which is designed
they designed it that way. It started back in the 70s, the late 70s and early 80s, right? And what they did was they came in with this neighborhood watch, because communities back then, when I was a kid, if you came into the community and you didn't belong there, you were going to get jacked up.
Right.
And I'm talking about, these are just working men and women, but we knew who was living in our neighborhoods and who was in our neighborhoods. And if there was somebody coming through the neighborhood that didn't look right, we would go jack them up, or the people would go jack them. Hey, what are you doing in our neighborhood? You don't live here. You visiting somebody? See, there was none of that BS. We could go out playing in the streets, right? Until the night lights came on, or the street lights came on. Then that was, you know, curtain call to go home, right? But we didn't have to worry about people snatching us. We didn't have to worry about any of that. Then came along, you know, they raised the prices on things. And so it wasn't copacetic for the man to work and bring home the bacon, okay? Because, you know, it just wasn't quite enough to make it. And they made it that way. So, you know, the woman would have to go out and take a part-time job or something. Well, what'd that do? That left the kids out there. Then they came up with McGruff the crime dog, take a bite out of crime, and neighborhood watch. And then they started having community centers and all of this stuff, right? It was all gauged to break up the communities and turn people against each other and watch out for everybody. You know, there might be a terrorist living next to you, you know. No, they did that on purpose. And the kids are the ones that suffered. I was the first generation of that. I ran the streets. I ran wild all over the place because I didn't have anywhere to go. My mom was working. My aunt was the babysitter, and I didn't like her, so I just went on my own. All right, not that she was not, you know, she just made me sit on the fireplace, and I had ADHD, and I still got butt prints in the bricks in that old fireplace at her house, you know. I just didn't like it.
So anyway, going back to the family court, which is really not a lawful court. It's not a court, and people need to really start studying, researching, asking questions. Do not get trapped into their dirty box.
Don't file paperwork into their system, okay? I mean, if you really, really can't work it out, then get a mediator.
Right. Right.
Okay?
It will save you money.
An
it will
unbiased
save you
mediator,
headache.
put everything on the table. Because, look, if you've lived a life together, right? Okay? You may have bad memories, but you got good memories too, right?
Right. Focus on the good.
What you've done is up to a point, you've produced a life together. Okay? When that life splits up, you have a right to what is yours, and she has a right to what is hers. And that's for you guys to work it out. You know what each of you did, and you know what's equitable. You don't need anybody to come in and tell you that, and you don't need to operate on emotion, okay? Right. Because I know it hurts, all right, and it tears you up, but, you know, if it's that time to move on, right, and it's, look, when a door closes, another one opens.
Right.
All right? And so if you've evolved or you've grown apart, well then, okay, that's fine. The time that you were together, you guys clicked. Now, you got to go find somebody that's at your level of life, going to the same place that you're going. Because if you're not going to the same place and you don't have the same basic vision as to what you want at the end of it, instead of fighting everybody else to get your dream, you're going to be fighting each other for different visions of that dream and never make it anywhere.
So, in the conclusion is there you had love between you two, and as an honorable people, man and woman, you can also resolve any of your differences, departure. You don't need to involve this system of constructive fraud that's going to only extort you. It's going to destroy your life, your kid's life. It's designed that way to take everything from you, and we've seen it, you've seen it. It's a matter of a record. And so we would just advise people that, you know, you basically work as the two loving people. You have differences, and do not get trapped into this tyranny. It's
do
horrific.
what's best for your offspring.
Your children, yeah.
Take their future and their well-being first. Okay? And make your decisions on what's best for them.
Right.
All right? And you know, if you do that, you can't go wrong.
Right. And then you dissolve this so-called marriage, which is fraud from the beginning for fraud, and that's it. And
do it right.
And do it right, and then you go on your merry way. You have the money now. However you decide to divide it, right? And then you just peacefully depart. There is no reason for these wars that these so-called family court systems are designed to do. So, our beautiful friends, have an amazing rest of the weekend here, and peace and much love and light. And we will see you in the next video.